Now entering the Bitcoin Podcast Network.
Yeah. Welcome to the Bitcoin Podcast. We in out here. Bitcoins, we got them. Acquire, never sell. But catch us rolling deep like Adele. Bitcoin, blockchains, cryptocurrencies. Three guys faded talking Bitcoin, no fee. Best of free Bitcoin podcast, insane. And adoption is still the only thing that matters, man.
Hey, everybody.
Yo, what's up?
Welcome to episode 235 of the Bitcoin Podcast. I am your first host, Marcello.
And I'm host number 2, Demteric.
I'm host number 3, Dr. Corey Petty.
Can't say it like that.
I can say it that way. I'm going to start saying it that way from now on.
If you say it like that, nobody's going to think you're a real doctor. And
people already don't think I'm a real doctor. What does it matter?
We should all just be doctors. Dr. Cello, Dr. D.
No,
we'll call ourselves the doctors.
Do that.
I feel like if you have an associate's degree, you should still get a title.
Associate.
Yeah. Nobody calls themselves associates.
I feel like I would rather be called a master than a doctor. So.
Yeah.
Really?
I would too.
That sounds way better.
Yeah.
I'd rather be
people don't think I'm going to give them CPR or like save somebody and give them like that. What is that? Larynx, like when you shove a pin through someone's throat to save them from breathing and choking. What's that called? Ooh. Either way, people don't think. I don't want people to assume that I can do that because I'm a doctor.
Well, if you don't know what it's called, they're not going to assume.
You're talking about when you got to pierce the trachea.
Yeah, tracheotomy.
Cut a slit in that
tracheotomy.
And then you put a pipe in there so people can breathe. Yeah.
Hey guys, we didn't talk about this last show, but we're part of the My Crypto Winter, and I'm sending out a big box of books to people who can win prizes.
Yeah. Jordan will be making sweet gift boxes of the winners at the end of the month. So if you follow winter.mycrypto.com, yesterday was our sweet sponsored tip of the month, which was basically redo all your passwords, don't reuse your passwords, use a password manager, and use randomly generated passwords that are long, and stop being stupid with your passwords.
And if you don't win, you can go on Amazon. You can just, if you just go on Amazon and you type in describe Bitcoin, it'll pop up. But the full title is, can you describe Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain? And there is a promo on there, $5 off your purchase of $20 or more. So basically, if you buy 2 books, you get $5 off. So
really?
Go get it.
You can just Google or Amazon describe Bitcoin. What if you Google it? I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna go mute.
I don't know if we're there yet because it hasn't been up there long. Like, I know a few people have left reviews of the book, and those reviews haven't been posted yet, so there's a little lag on it.
Michelle Obama said you guys should go out and get this book over her book, and that's a quote, actually. So we'll put it on Twitter.
That's a good quote.
Yeah, it wasn't extreme or anything. She just said, "Hey, go out and get this book. It's better than mine."
Yeah, if you just type describe Bitcoin in Amazon, that's for the first book.
Nice.
And it doesn't work in Google yet, so let's wait. We'll get that. Our reviews haven't popped up. I was really hoping our reviews popped up because some people who have purchased the book in the Slack have said they've given us reviews and they hope that we would read them.
Yep.
Yeah, so in due time. But the book is available.
Oh, yeah. Do we have a tweet too? A hashtag? If you take a picture of the book and put it on Twitter with the hashtag 10 words or less, we will see that and we will retweet you.
And thank you.
I
feel like we should have a contest.
Yeah, we should.
I might give it like a 1 ETH away if you sign up for our Instagram, follow us on Twitter, buy the book, use the hashtag, join the Slack, do all those things. I'll put you in a pool and we'll give away 1 ETH. I haven't discussed that with my co-host yet, but
yeah, you just did.
We're cool with that.
Yeah, we're cool with that.
Campaign time. We're running a campaign too.
Yep. So, all right, guys, what's on the docket? What's going on in fucking crypto land that we need to talk about?
I think people are finally starting to buy back in right now.
You
That's
think so?
exciting.
What gives you that impression? What
Corey just said he was going to buy back in.
Well, I'm not buying. I'm not buying back in. I'm just adding more.
Well, I mean back in because I think we've all taken a couple months off from buying crypto.
Yeah, but like when we say buying back, that means somebody sold. I guess I did sell at the top. So,
Like, a lot of people at dollar cost average, I think people are just like, oh shit, ETH is at a price now where I can get some skin in the game. It's at a good price.
I wonder what it is about, because for me, it's not necessarily the price. Maybe it's like partially due to the price of ETH and Bitcoin. That's making me say like, yeah, now's about the time where it seems unreasonable for me not to buy things with the amount of like expendable income that I have. Right? Mm-hmm. I've kind of just been waiting to be like, oh, I'll try and maximize the amount of dollars that I have to spend on Bitcoin by waiting for the price to get to a point where I don't think it's going to go much, much lower. And I don't really watch the price that much, but I feel like it's casually been up and down around this area. And if it halves more than it does now, it's not that big of a difference. Like, it's not that drastic of a change.
What you're talking about is the risk is lower.
Yeah. Ultimately, that's the idea. Like, I feel like the upside is so much larger. I don't know. I feel as though we could potentially get back to the prices they were at the beginning of the year. And so if that's the case, then like in terms of Ethereum, I'm more than 15xing my money.
Yeah.
If it gets back to that price.
There's a tool to help you make this decision. I've actually built one.
I prefer to use my balls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just really make decisions from there.
What do you scratch them first?
They tingle when they go.
No, those Chinese balls you like rotate in your hand to make noises.
Oh, those balls.
Yeah, those. I use those.
Okay. Well, I've actually got those too. They actually exercise your hand and build coordination, and they're stress relievers too. What are they called? Chinese
stress balls?
Stress balls?
Let's Google it. I'm going to Google that while y'all keep talking.
Yeah, so different balls for different calls, I guess. But I would heavily recommend people look into building a tool. It's called the Sharp Ratio. You can actually graph it, and it'll show you your risk exposure. Using the assets that you have, and it'll tell you just how much risk you have in the game. And it's a unique tool. You can find all sorts of, like, when I say I built one, it's not that big of a deal. If you go on Google and you Google like Sharp Ratio, there's a whole bunch of spreadsheets that'll show you. You just copy and paste, put your numbers in there, and you'll know how much risk you're exposed to in the crypto market. So,
do people want to know that?
I mean, you're supposed to know.
You should know that. I mean, if you consider this like an investment, you should probably watch your investments.
No, I mean,
an idea like how it's performing.
Anything further than going on Blockfolio and seeing how much you invested at the price at the time and what the price is now, and then they give you a red percentage or a green percentage. What more do you need to know? I don't need spreadsheets and ratio risk aversions and all that. Why would someone want all that?
People who want more information about the performance of their portfolio as opposed to the current state. You can see like there are derivatives of the current state or like trends based on times and the performance in previous states. And projecting is a little rough because it's assuming things are going to keep performing the way they have, which isn't necessarily like that true. Anyway, more importantly, they're called Baoding balls. Or Chinese exercise balls, like Baoding. I'm sure there's like a Chinese pronunciation that I'm horribly butchering.
Baoding.
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 Baoding. Or Chinese medicine balls.
Should we make TBP medicine balls?
I would
put them in the shop.
TBP medicine balls.
Put them in the shop that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That everyone keeps asking for years. That we actually have. It's just we haven't pushed like publish.
Well, I just added another SKU to that imaginary store. You're welcome.
That's all for you, Miller.
Yeah.
Hey, Cello, to answer your question, you need more than that, because basically when you're investing, you're measuring probabilities. And when you throw in risk, to say like, okay, if I'm at a really high risk of a low probability event occurring, why am I going to put money in that? What's the point of putting money in that? Right. And by assessing your risk, it teaches you how to rebalance your portfolio as well. Right. So the reason the XRP army exists is because for relatively low risk, you're investing in this thing that seems like it has some finality to it. Like, it's a nice shiny product. There's a bunch of nice shiny people in nice shiny suits getting up every day saying how nice the product is. So in the pink sheet game, it's a pretty solid bet. You got a low risk, right? Because it's at 30 cents. If it loses 50%, it's 15 cents. Big whoop.
Yeah, but they also have this. I feel like a good portion of them have this feeling, or like a more naive person who's investing in crypto feels that these 30 or 15 cent coins have the potential to get up to Bitcoin prices because Bitcoin did it at one point in its life.
I think those days are over.
Well,
those days are over.
Well, it has to do with like the percentage of coins for the total that you own, and so like the reason why Bitcoin has more value than those things because there's only 21 million in existence, like 21 million full Bitcoins in existence, and that will ever be in existence. And so like when you own one Bitcoin, that's a 1/millionth of 1/21 millionth of the total supply that will ever exist. And you can't say, it's very difficult to say the same thing. When I own one Ripple, that's like what, 1/30 trillionth of the total supply or whatever it is. And so it's not the same. It'll always inherently, one of that will always inherently have a smaller value. And so one of that will never get up to the same prices that people think they are. I mean,
unless the demand is
weird,
way bigger.
What'd you say,
future that I don't see happening.
I mean, you're just describing supply and demand, but if the demand is way bigger to a coin that has a bigger marketing supply, that could offset some things too.
Well, let's look at like what the thing is supposed to be used for and the current market valuation of that thing it's trying to disrupt, right? Like I usually use like the cases for like when ICOs would come out and be like, we're going to be the new dental coin. Everyone in the dental industry is going to use our coin and then transact and so on and so forth, et cetera, revolutionize the dental industry. Well, if you look at how much the dental industry is across the entire space, right? The entire world. And then that's going to be some X amount. We'll just, for a round number, say it's $100 billion. I have no idea if that's true or not. We're just using the round numbers. And you're going to say, well, we're going to disrupt this industry. Okay, say you have 100% conversion from the traditional industry to your coin. That means that the total market cap of your coin can only, at its maximum, ever have $100 billion. And so depending on how many coins you have in your total supply, that's how much the one coin will cost, is $100 billion divided by whatever your total supply is. So if you think, so like, but that's not going to happen. You're probably going to get like, I don't know, at a maximum 25% of the total industry. I don't know what you're going to, I don't know. I'm just making things up, but like you make reasonable assessments on how much of that industry you're actually going to disrupt or take over. And then you divide that number by the total amount of coins that you actually have. And then that's how much a coin can maximally get to. But people think that, and so like that, and usually people do ICOs or evaluations and they shoot to project one coin being over that amount, which is just, that's not how it works. You cannot have a coin be more valuable than the amount of like utility it gets, unless it's pure speculation, and then people are dumb. And that's where you have like these massive sell-offs.
Yeah.
And since a lot of this technology in its current state doesn't have the utility that we're like potentially hoping for in the future, then all that price jumping was just pure speculation and people hoping.
I wish there were a way to measure the utility, though. If there's a utilitarian value and there's a speculative value of all these assets, then how do we measure the utility accurately? Like, is it the net value transferred, like Willy Woo has, the NVT ratio?
I don't know.
Like those are the things that we should probably be looking at. More
I
accurate.
I like the speculative nature. I don't like mapping everything out. I like that there's like some doom and gloom. There's some hope.
You like gambling?
Yeah, I like that. Oh, I can buy an ETH right now at like $70, and then one day it might be 1,500. I don't need to map it out and say, oh, well, it's probably at the halvening in 2022 going to ripple effect here. That I don't like mapping stuff out. I'm the type of investor where I like hopes and dreams.
You also like using your balls.
Yes, not the Chinese kind. the lose my mortgage and my wife leaves me kind. But I like that aspect of crypto. I don't like mapping every instant out. I don't like the Willy Woo charts and the crypto dog.
Why?
Speculative stuff.
A lot of that stuff, I'd say, is like, it's what people are trying to do is get as much information about what's currently going on, and they overdo it to a point of like not meaning anything because they're just drawing lines to reconfirm the bias they already have, and then they ignore the things that go against it in a lot of ways.
Smart people don't like uncertainty. They have to have answers for everything. Like, oh no, we're not going to speculate. We're going to map this shit out because I'm smart.
Well, why
how you gonna hate on smart people? When is being smart a bad thing?
Well, he's a member of the anti-intellectualism crew. They like the hate on smartness.
AIT.
AA.
Okay, no, that's not. It's just like. It's just like, I'm just throwing an example. Like, I'm not going to believe in God because you can't turn water into wine. There's probability and there's rationalism between everything. So that's just fairy tales and dust. There's reasoning behind everything. There's the Big Bang Theory, dinosaurs, and blah, blah, blah. There's people that have to have concrete answers for everything, and they can't leave things up to just judgments and speculation. You don't have to even be smart for that. That's just a personality trait, I think.
Well, then you can't claim to be right about things if you never have a rationalization behind the things you believe. You can.
I just don't think that you can prove right. There's no right or wrong with these. You can't look at a Willy Woo chart and be like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, there are certain things you can say that are clearly right. I think a lot of these charts are going far beyond that. And the people who are, in my opinion, the people who are really smart are saying that you can't know these things, or like that's why I say we're so early and there's so much wild variation, and I don't make bets on a lot of things or say guarantees on what's going to happen because I know enough to know that I can't know what's going to happen. There's not enough information to know to make that to say what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
So I just think that like people are too scared to be wrong about stuff, when I think like the more wise choice is to know what you can and can't be wrong about. It's okay to post a chart and make some predictions, quote unquote, or some speculative assumptions about what the chart says. It's okay to be wrong there. It's a speculative asset. It's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to be wrong, though, if you are, say, I don't know, like the director of some crazy ass economic bureaucratic entity of a country, and you're looking and projecting the economic growth of your country for 30 years and you're trying to make a decision about a thing. You can't be wrong there. You can't afford to be wrong. And so I think there's nothing wrong with looking at a Bitcoin chart and saying like, okay, if X amount of people bought in here, then they'd be looking to take this amount of profit there. So, in between here and there is probably a good time to sell. Like there's nothing okay with being wrong on the other end of that, I don't think.
I mean, if your job is to buy and sell things so that you can make a profit, you should be doing more than just having gut feelings. You have to have some reasoning to the people who buy into whatever your fund is, so that they give you money to do that. Otherwise, people are never going to invest in you if you're just like, well, we just go by our gut, and it's worked out so far. Because no one can say that.
Like we were quoting Willy Woo in the Slack, and some guy was like, "Why are we listening to Willy Woo? Like, what's his background?"
No, that was Colin.
But Colin's a speculative.
I don't.
Speculative skeptical person.
I'm just you're right, Shello. A lot of people go overboard, and there's no reason to listen to these people. It's just, in my opinion, just gather as much information as you can, and make whatever decision you have based on your own knowledge. And if you don't want to do that, then have fun. You're gambling. Don't waste your money. Like don't spend money you can't waste. If you're not doing that, then who cares?
Yeah, we're buying protocols of finance upon which the future will be built upon. Like that's super speculative.
Yep. Considering there's people that already have protocols for finance and they have a lot of money.
But they don't trade like an ordinary market though. They trade like an adoption S-curve.
What are you talking about? Oh, you talking about crypto?
Well, you're saying people, buy protocols of finance all the time. But, I mean, people are posting charts like a traditional market and treating it as such. And it's not.
Oh, yeah. I agree with that, too. You can't use... I mean, I've written about this. You can't use... Well, you can, but you can't solely depend on traditional ways of evaluating this type of stuff. Because this stuff goes beyond.
It's beyond me.
It's called like transcendent, or it's more general. So like, if you develop a tool set to evaluate the financial sector, you're doing so that it covers like all of the constraints and rule sets of that sector, right? So like with money, you a lot of the like fundamental analysis, technical analysis of these things have been built and used and evaluated and changed and iterated over for that market, which hasn't changed. And then we create this new technology that goes beyond. It includes all of the things associated with the financial market, or most of it at least, and then does a lot more stuff. And so when you try and use that old tool set to evaluate this new, broader thing, you, by definition, cannot define or grasp the whole picture. You're only going to get the part that is reliant upon the like financial part. You're not going to get all that other stuff that's more general that goes beyond the financial market. And so if you depend solely on those metrics to make your decisions, then you're missing a big portion of the picture. And that's what a lot of people do. They say, well, like, the people have been using these tools for years and generations to try and establish like what things are happening. So clearly I'm going to find this. So like, yeah, we're using them on the wrong thing. Like you create models, and models have limits and boundaries on where they're appropriate to be used. And when you take them outside of the things they're appropriate for, then the results that come from them are not nearly as accurate or like as conclusive. So you have to be careful on when you use things. So if you end up doing that type of stuff and you're not like Cello and you want to make decisions, then make sure like you're asking the question of like, is this an appropriate thing to be used, and how much should I rely on the actual results? How good are those results? That's the scientific method. You have to know what you're using and why it should be used and where it's appropriate, and evaluate the results of using it appropriately.
Like I say, if you don't want to be like Marcello and use decision-making tools.
I mean, you literally just said, I don't want to do that.
I'm just saying, like, there needs to be an active investment strategy. And we're just so early, there really is no concrete investment strategies for what we do. I mean, new protocols are coming out all the time, I
agree with that.
You don't need to diss your man.
It hasn't been around long enough for us to say this works and has worked for a long period of time. And it's also changing so rapidly that like we're changing the model, or the thing people are building models on so quickly that models that are built quickly become obsolete.
Yeah, that's true. Things are changing rapidly though. There's institutional play. I think the institutional money that people talked about for 4 or 5 years now, I think it's been in for quite a while, honestly. I think it's part of what drove the price up, and what's part is driving it back down. And I think that there's kind of clues to see that it's in there with like Poloniex now is offering institutional sub accounts. I'm echoing in somebody's mic.
Sorry.
Poloniex is offering, drop down accounts, for lack of a better term. Coinbase Pro will be offering it within 3 months. There's another, Binance is offering it too. So now you're going to have these massive trading desks, which have, multiple people trading for them underneath one sub account, or sorry, several sub accounts underneath one master account. So more institutional like trading is happening. So I think the patterns existed and they've been taken advantage of for the past 12 months.
It could be. I don't know.
Because
only thing that's why I don't want to, I'm kind of like Cello in that I don't want to spend a lot of my time trying to figure that type of stuff out. One, because I don't really trust the models being used. And I don't think whatever is being used won't continue to be used later on down the line when we have actual utility. And I feel that the prices now are not reflective. They're smaller than what they will be when this stuff is actually being used. That's why I buy stuff. And that's why I don't like watch the charts every day or check my portfolio. When the prices go up, I'll know. And I'll be able to be like, oh, cool, now's a good time to get out when I feel that it's gotten out of control. I sold at the beginning of the year because I felt like the conversation and narrative and excitement around everything that was going on was far greater than what was warranted. So I sold. And that's what I mean by what I say, like, I buy and sell based on like my gut and balls, is that I'm looking at how people are talking and doing these things and the price associated with it and what I actually understand about the technology. And when those things don't match up, then I act accordingly.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's where I differ from both of you guys, is that I have a number in point. Like when I buy in, I have a number in the future. And like, this is the number I sell at.
Well, that's just like, in my opinion, sound investment strategy. Like it helps you not be greedy or scared, and act according to those like really extreme emotions. So you say like, this is how I'm doing it, and whatever happens is what happens. So I'll buy and sell when it gets to these certain points. So that way you remove emotion, because a lot of people trade with pure emotions. They get scared, like, oh, I don't know what's going on, I'm losing too much money, and they sell, and then it comes back up and like, ah, shit.
Yeah. And trust me, I've made some money, but I've also lost out on opportunities because of that too. Hell, I had an opportunity to put a whole Bitcoin in the ether when it was worth like a penny, and Bitcoin was worth like $500. And I was like, I don't know about that. Seems kind of risky. I also miss out on opportunities too. So
Yeah.
Well, before I want to take a little bit of time to talk about some of the things people asked about in the Slack.
Oh, about the Zcash stuff?
Zcash and ETC. And D, I think the echo is coming from your computer.
It is? I don't even know how.
I don't know.
I'm not even hearing an echo.
I hear it kind of when people get real loud. Either way, doesn't matter. I guess people want to know. Yeah, join the Slack. You can ask us questions. We end up talking about it on the show. I guess people are like, some words around. So I think this all got started when ETC Dev, which was a developer group that was solely focused on Ethereum Classic, announced, and they were the leading development group in that space, announced that they're closing up shop for good, effective immediately, because they could not secure funding for the team to continue working on developing things on ETC. And basically the media around that was like, Ethereum Classic is finally dead. It's no longer working. We all knew it was going to happen, but I think, and like generally speaking, that's not the case. There are quite a few projects that currently run on Ethereum Classic. For those that don't know, Ethereum Classic is the fork that stayed alive after the DAO that chose not to change the rules, whereas Ethereum changed the rules to refund a lot of the money from the DAO hack. And so that just kept churning along, mostly driven by IOHK for the longest time, and then other people put money into it and built developer communities around it, started building projects, etc. And it seems to be going along strong. So right now, one of the large projects that I think I found was a bridge between Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. So you can basically transfer funds back and forth between the two chains. As well as, and more often than not, I feel like I would think people use Ethereum Classic as a hedge against Ethereum because Ethereum is slowly moving towards proof of stake. And all of the mining hardware and miners won't have anything to like use their hardware on, so there's automatically something to put that hash power towards and start maintaining some profitability associated with the hardware you have for doing that. And then if you have that, you need developer interest to sell that coin, and people have basically been making bets that that's the case, or they're ideologically driven to say this is an immutable chain because we chose not to change the rules. And so like that's the stance that Ethereum Classic has taken and will probably always take. So if you're into that, then build on those types of systems because you can have a safe bet that no matter what happens, the base layer chain isn't going to reorganize to fix it. As for Zcash, they had a huge upgrade to their network a couple months ago, I want to say. To the title name for it is called Sapling, which was a hard fork for Zcash, and they changed the elliptic curve that they do all their stuff on, and to make things incredibly more efficient and fast for shielded addresses. So beforehand, Zcash was hailed as being like the using zero knowledge proofs to enable like complete privacy so that no one can understand who you're interacting with and how much you're interacting with on the blockchain. So it was like obfuscating all the information around a transaction, which is called a shielded transaction. This was not by default like Monero is. You had to opt into this type of thing, and it was actually really hard to do, and no one was doing it. So like less than 5% of all transactions on Zcash were just like every other chain, public. And so like no one was actually using shielded transactions because it was so inefficient. And there's a property about this type of thing is that like the smaller the set of people who use these anonymity features, the less privacy and security associated with it. And so like basically you could know everything that was going on because only a few people were actually using it. You need to like it needs to be more broadly used in order to have the same like security and privacy guarantees that they're hoping for. I mean, the cryptography is strong, but you just basically use forensics around the transactions. And so the Sapling made it much, much more efficient to use these shielded addresses so that they'll be used way more often, like on mobiles. And you also have things like detaching a viewing key from the actual private keys that generated these shielded addresses. And so you can actually view the transactions, inputs, outputs, without exposing the private key that actually generated things. And so like some cool cryptography around that kind of stuff. Sapling enabled that type of stuff. So it's moving forward. It's now on Coinbase, which is pretty awesome. You can buy it. You won't be using shielded transactions on Coinbase, I don't think, anytime soon. You'll be using the regular public knowledge stuff. And that's a pretty good update on that shit.
Yeah, I think Zcash is a fascinating project because I don't think it's setting out to be as awesome as it is. When you look in their white paper, a lot of it was written to like kind of be a test bed for Bitcoin, or at least at a maximum like a side chain for Bitcoin, whenever side chains were all the rage back in the day.
Yeah.
But people figured out that side chains are tough, and they were like, oh shit, well, screw the side chain idea, let's just be our own thing. And it's blossoming really, really well.
What's cool, in my opinion, is that it's pushed a lot of the it's pushed the research in that type of cryptography, which is very, very, very applied, useful cryptography. These things have existed for a long time. They just haven't been efficient for application. And what Zcash has done is basically incentivize all the researchers who care about that kind of stuff to really work on building something that's usable for everyday people, so that eventually we're going to come to a technology that enables a lot of really cool stuff for the average individual that wouldn't have gotten funded otherwise. And like in research, if you don't get funds, then you can't work on the things you want to work on. And so basically money pushes research in a lot of ways. But despite what people care about or are passionate about, want to work on, if they don't have money to pay the bills and feed their family, then they can't work on those things unless they have a lot of money to not care. And things like Zcash have allowed money to flow to that kind of research, which in the end will benefit everyone.
I wonder how ahead of the curve we are. Like nowadays, usually you're taking out cash, or people take out cash when they need to hit up their local push-it man. But at sometime in the future is going to be like, hey man, you pay for this with the Zcash. Don't come here with that Bitcoin. All right, if you want this high dose THC, you're going to give me some Zcash.
I mean, ain't nobody buying weed from a dealer these days. Come on.
What? Yeah, they are.
I don't know why. Just go get really good weed from the medical store.
Go ahead, dispensaries.
Yeah, like actual really good stuff, as opposed to going to some dude on the street. You trying to get heroin? Go to that guy.
Yeah.
That shit's gross, and you don't know what you're actually getting. But if you want to get weed, it's legal. Just go buy the good stuff because it's regulated.
Oh, public service drug announcement from Dr. Petty.
Yeah, if you're buying weed from a guy in the corner, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. It reminds me of that Always Sunny when he's like, one 8-ball, please. one crack.
Yeah,
I get one crack.
Can I have one crack, please?
All right. Good segue to our interview.
Yeah.
I wasn't. It's Sent. I don't know the guys though. I wasn't. I
love this project. I wasn't a part of the interview, but I love this project.
Oh yeah, Cent.co. This is who was it? Was it Max and Cameron from beta.cent.com.
Co.
.co?
Yeah, CO.
I just said Cent.co, yeah. Beta.cent.co. There's a lot going on with this project. So yeah, pages of the interview. I don't have anything to add there. Just here it is. Hey everybody. Welcome to another exciting interview. For today, we have a very exciting project that I've been following low-key, kind of stalking, kind of not, here and there. I wasn't in you guys' bushes. That wasn't me. But the project is Cent, and that is CENT, at beta.cent.co. And the way I think of Cent is it's like it's kind of like social media, but not really. It's kind of like there's bounties for asking questions or and then there's also like you can get paid to post things. It's kind of a lot, and you could tell I'm not the best stalker, obviously. But today we're joined with Max and Cam, and they're gonna break down Cent for us and also kind of take us through like the user experience and just talk about crypto, Bitcoin podcast stuff. So guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much. We're very excited to be here. And yeah, we appreciate your stalking. But we can also elucidate for people a little bit more about what we're trying to do and what we're doing now.
Good deal.
I guess this is a quick sort of back. Cool.
Yeah, before we go into that,
just give a quick background.
Give your background.
Yeah.
So Max, where are you from? What do you do? How'd you fall into crypto? What are your hobbies?
Okay. So I have a few hobbies. I have two things I focus on in life, which is really Cent and also music. I'm very into songwriting and sort of artistic endeavors in general. My background is design and sort of user interface UX design. I worked in augmented reality for a while. I worked in SaaS products, but really congealed around blockchain and micropayments and cryptocurrencies a few years ago. I studied philosophy in school, and I'm really into sort of deep questions and trying to get to answers for those that are adequate. And in a lot of ways, Cent is sort of a pretty philosophical company and sort of its answer to some fundamental societal problems. And so the sort of philosophical artistic angle is sort of where I pull from a lot. Cameron, what about you?
Yeah, so I have an engineering background. I studied computer science at University of Michigan and graduated in 2014. At some point during my undergrad experience. It was probably around, I interned for a digital publisher. And like all digital publishers today, they monetize through advertising. And so I had my first exposure to how, from a publisher's perspective, dealing with the world of advertising works. And by the end of the internship, I could pretty confidently say that like advertising was one of the greatest evils on the internet. And it sort of set in place like a foundation where for the rest of, at the time that must have been 2012 onward, I became fixated and sort of fascinated with how do we solve the content monetization problems on the internet. And that led me through a number of, I started a company. I ended up winding it down for various reasons. And then, fast forward to 2017, the beginning of 2017, me and Max got in contact actually, because I was still working on the problem, but I was trying to figure out like what the next move was, like what a better implementation was, because the previous service that I had been running was based on advertising, but focused on repurposing it for the consumer. So if you're someone on social media, you make money sharing content, you get a portion of that ad revenue. But it really, it was a tough business to be in. And so really, I come at it from this, core motivation to solve content monetization on the internet. And me and Max are sort of like incredibly sort of aligned around that problem, and like more generally, the future of the creative economy, / economy in general, as we move toward like a more automated society and robots replace, traditional human tasks. Sort of how we think about the future of work and how that gets monetized. We feel like it's very creative, very on the internet. And so that's a large focus of Cent and our mission and where we're headed.
Yeah, and just to also give a little more context for how we met, in college I had this idea for a company that I ended up starting out of college that was actually called Penny, and the idea with that was that it was a really simple network. It was sort of pre-Ethereum, pre a lot of ability to make stuff with blockchains. But the idea with that was instead of liking a piece of content, you could give it 1 penny, and the idea was that at scale, 1,000. The one-liner for it was like 1 million likes is 1 million likes, but 1 million pennies is $10,000. It sort of instantly monetizes things in the way that we already interact with them. Mm-hmm. So I built that, and I sort of jerry-rigged it, like using Stripe and like all these other fiat structures. And it worked, but barely, because you couldn't. One of the things I learned about microtransactions pre-crypto is that they're impossible, in the sense of to send 1 penny costs around 33 cents. And so it just makes it completely pointless to do that. And so I built other implementations where it's sort of all, bundled all the transactions until the end of a month and stuff like that. But it was always a hassle. There were always all these fees. There was all these government regulations around having to get registered as a money service business and all these things. And I really found Ethereum a few years ago from looking for some way to move 1 penny around. And then I quickly realized, oh, wow, there's so many more things I can build with this. And so I was just transitioning that company from its fiat structure to an Ethereum structure, but that really wasn't my core technical expertise at that time. And luckily, Cameron found that project and reached out. And I think more than anything, we have really complementary skill sets. Like, we built the first version of Cent, just us. And, I generally doing the design, Cameron generally doing the development. And I think that sort of us having our own domains has really been a positive thing, because, we collaborate when we need to, but we also sort of defer to each other and kind of respect each other's, expertise, which I think is good in general for teams to have.
Yeah, it always helps in early stages of anything, really, if roles are defined, and because it helps to outline the responsibilities really well. And the fact that you guys were able to kind of stay in your individual lanes is probably a testament to the success that you've had. So that's good. I wanted to ask a question, though. It's just a philosophical question. And what is a necessary evil, Cam? Because you said advertising is a necessary evil of the internet. And then I've always thought, like, since I was a kid, I was like, is evil ever necessary? So I wanted to kind of say, like, what makes advertising a necessary evil?
Yeah, I would say that it's necessary in the sense that, you know, it powers content creation on the internet today, by and large, right? Reddit makes most of its money from advertising, you know, as a company, and that's all user-generated content. And I think necessary is sort of to be treated as a stopgap, in the sense that there will be a solution that replaces it eventually. That solution just isn't there yet. We have a lot of hypotheses around what that solution could look like. And obviously, you know, we're working on what we think are the most promising ones. But for the time being, if these organizations are going to get paid and the creators are going to get paid, then advertising is absolutely essential to funding that, because a publishing business itself is currently only viewed as valuable as the audience that it is like capable of reaching, right? Mm-hmm. The businesses that want to partner to reach that audience are ultimately a proxy for the value of, you know, a journal or an online publication. And we think that there are better ways to quantify that value. And so, you know, bountying is sort of loosely related to that. Seeding is much more strongly related to that, which we can get into in a bit. These are the product offerings on Send. And we think that as time goes on, the mechanisms for measuring and rewarding value for content creation will just get like incredibly more robust and honest and disintermediated.
Mm-hmm. And just to, you know, I think if you really think about what is advertising, you know, at its core, and I think ultimately what it is that some sort of entity has built some sort of structure that has people's attention. And the reason it has people's attention is not to show them ads. It's that there's something else there. So, you know, take Times Square. You know, you have big buildings and busy intersections. And so it has people's attentions because it's in a popular city and it's in a high trafficked, you know, area, and there's big structures around. And so people sort of sit on top of that structure and put their message on top of it. In the same way that Facebook exists as this place where people go digitally to connect with each other. And then since people are there, you can have their attention, so you can sort of hijack their attention to show them something. But I think what's always bothered me about it fundamentally is that it's non-consensual. Like you're not agreeing to see it. You're sort of, it's just being thrust into your sensory experience. And in a lot of ways, it's programming you, because it's giving your subliminal mind these cues. You know, you see a burger with like a supermodel eating it, and you're like, oh, that's like cool, or that's, you know, that's how I get a supermodel, is by eating this burger, or whatever it is. Whatever connections, it's those type of things are very intelligently constructed to pull you in certain directions. The person who actually invented a lot of what modern advertising was one of Sigmund Freud's main, I think it was his son or its cousin or someone who's related to him. But he has this whole book about, you know, all the psychological things that he sort of brought to Madison Avenue and how it's sort of manipulating people. And so what we always felt was that there had to be a way, there's actual value creation occurring all over the internet. You know, there's people making interesting posts, interesting songs, interesting videos that gives us pleasant emotions, pleasant thoughts, and you know, it's pure value creation, and it's pure value creation in the way that that, you know, working at a Starbucks or a factory is less pure value creation, because for most jobs they're inherently algorithmic in the sense that they're step-by-step processes. You know, if you're a barista, it's, you know, take order, smile, put in coffee, put in cream, write name, push out on the counter. And the better you do that, the more consistently you do that, the better of an employee you are. But obviously, you know, our take on it is that jobs like that can, will, and really should be replaced by machines, because there's a subhumanness to them. It's not using a human to its full capacity. And in that same pattern, it's less aggressive, but it's the same basic pattern. We see it as sort of slavery. It's sort of, you're doing something that is below your capacity as a being, and you're being forced to do it. And if you don't do it, you won't eat. And so we sort of are born into this world where that's the norm. But I have a strong conviction that the future generations will look back and, you know, with some sort of similar level of disgust that we made people do terrible things 9 to 5 for their entire lives, and that it'll be kind of sad to look at. And so Cent is really designed to begin to create structures that exchange creative value for financial value, and because that has to be what the future economy relies on. It has to rely on value that's uniquely human, value that a machine couldn't do. A machine couldn't have your perspective, and so that's sort of part of the angle of view we're coming from.
We're very aligned on that front, Max. I think the same thing. As automation starts to consume more and more of what we do, we have to redefine value and what it means to add value and partake in that new creation economy, as you put it. Like, a person is offering these valuable insights, or maybe they're a musician, or maybe they're a great, fiction writer, but, how are they going to make a living? They can't go, when a robot's pouring coffee, you know what I mean? So I think it's very interesting you bring that up, because I've thought that for a while, that, we're going to have to redefine and put more value into things that are uniquely human. And I think it's going to be hard to define the difference between the two, but that's a whole other argument. So let's get into Cent. Let's elucidate, as you put it. How can people start using it? What does it do? What problem are you trying to solve, like, specifically? Let's dive into it.
Sure. So again, the end state vision of all this, what I see a sort of future human doing in their life is that right now, it's like you get out of school, or whenever you start to think of yourself as an adult, and you're like, okay, well, I need to find a job. That's like step one of how I function in society. And so you start trying to construct yourself into a cog for some system to use. And you're like, okay, I can do this. I'll be I'll be an accountant, or I'll be an analyst, or I'll be a, whatever it is. And you try to turn yourself into something that some larger system can benefit from. And I think that was needed during the Industrial Revolution. But now what we want to shift the narrative to is that you wake up and you basically think, how can I provide value to some amount of people over a network in the most efficient way? And so an immediate value, a value that really you can only provide. And for different people, that's different things. And so for certain people, that's providing answers or providing replies to questions that they've had. And so what we started with last year is what we call our bounty system. And the way to understand that is essentially you can post any request or post any sort of ask, so to speak. You could say, I'm starting, a tennis coaching business and I need a logo. And you'll say, all right, I'm going to put up, $10 as a reward. And what that does then is the user base can then reply to your request. And they can, reply with a logo they make. There's a lot of designers on Cent. So they can, you'll get like 30 different logos from all these people, and they're competing to be the best logo. And then other users come in and they vote on the responses. They basically say, and they vote by the system of, 2 responses at a time get paired up, and you just choose which one you think is better. And at the end of a predetermined amount of time, the best responses automatically receive the money that was offered in the original ask. And that whole sort of structure was created because, first of all, we were sort of obsessed with Ethereum, and we wanted to figure out what's like the simplest thing that we can build that actually does something you couldn't really do before, and actually, I guess, something we might actually use daily. And that was like, in some way gets you money. That was kind of our the boundaries we had going into it, and we ended up settling on this bounty idea. And it's been really amazing to see how many different ways people use it. People who are into crypto investing will ask, I'm thinking about investing on this coin. Give me like a 3-page research report on it. And, the Centians, or that's what the Cent community has named themselves, the Centians. And they will go out and do anything for you. It's pretty incredible, really. There's really not been something, you have an army of people that like are at your beck and call for like $10 if you want them, and I think a lot of it then rests on the original poster to sort of have their own creativity about like, what could I possibly make, all these people do that would benefit my life. And we have way, way better response rates and things like Quora. If you ask, we have all these one-on-one comparisons where you ask a question on Quora and you get maybe 1-2 responses, and on Cent you get like 50 or 60 responses. And we think that's mostly because there's a financial incentive on Cent. And what's cool about financial incentives is that you can make people do anything. Like if you're offering money in a lot of places in the world, even small amounts of money, even $3 is, a week's salary in a lot of countries. And so people will do whatever you want them to do. And so we sort of see it as just the beginning of sort of this whole new paradigm for how to think about value transfer among human beings. And that was sort of the genesis of how I think we thought about it.
That's so is the highest amount that you can put up for bounty $10, or can you set the max to whatever you want?
No limit. You can set it to whatever you'd like. And what you're doing when I say you're putting that money in, is you're sending that money essentially to a contract. And then we have a hybrid sort of decentralized, centralized architecture. So part of it's under our control, part of it's not. We like to think that the most important part is written into contract form. But the money gets sent, and then the money gets distributed. And the money you earn on Cent right now is Ether. So you're not really. We will very soon have our own coin, but that's not where that coin would come in. You'll always sort of earn mainstream cryptocurrencies on Cent. And we've also been thinking about stable coins like USDC and things like that, where you could potentially earn directly in what it feels like a fiat currency, even though you don't have to deal with the cumbersome nature of fiat structures.
Very neat. Very neat. So what is one of those things you said, something that you could do with Ether that couldn't be done before with the previous fiat system? What is something that you've done specifically that people have really been drawn to?
Yeah, well, I think one of the big things is just the path to getting money, right? Mm-hmm. If you think about like ways in which you can earn money on the internet today, a lot of it comes down to, you have to sign up for PayPal. You have to be over 18. You have to do all these things. You have to have a bank account. You have to link that bank account. You have to take all of these steps. And it is really cumbersome for, someone who has access to the internet, say a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old, but does not have any sort of financial services available to them. And not to say that we're focusing entirely on a young crowd, but I see a lot of the value in cryptocurrencies as it pertains to this whole permissionless nature of it. A user can come and sign up, just provide their email address, and all they need to do is get MetaMask, or in the future, even less. Maybe download Coinbase Wallet or Trust Browser. Super simple. And now you have this native asset, Ether, which is tied to a variety of services. It's growing by the day, the number of places that you can use it. Obviously, right now, it's heavily focused on decentralized finance. But in the future, as the economy scales, these are sort of the base layer of financial services upon which, businesses and other types of entities will be built. And presumably, they will accept Ether as well. So I see it as a more fluid way of getting purchasing power in the internet of tomorrow. And I think that's very powerful. And that's just what we're doing today. But in the future, as Max said, we really like to focus on decentralizing when it sort of best serves the intentions of the user. And so as time goes on, we think that there's a huge opportunity for a system like Cent to increase trust and transparency by gradually moving more things on chain, by having it so that people can audit themselves and they don't have to trust us. They can sort of look at the code and trust the code. We already have that to an extent today, but we're sort of minimizing that because of scalability issues, things that are short-term headaches for the community, but will eventually be alleviated with scaling solutions.
So, what's the funniest bounty you've seen so far to date? Or is it what's the most unique thing you've seen put up on Cent for bounty to date?
The first one that comes to mind for me is a while ago we had someone, I forget if it was one of us or if it was someone else who posted it, but it was like they wanted like this specific ridiculous image made. Like, give me an image of a kangaroo sitting on a lawn chair in the middle of a glacier, like this ridiculous image. And they were like, go. And then you would see like these 20 different versions of this kangaroo on this lawn chair. And it was just kind of cool. It was fun though, because you can just really, again, you can. It's a really it's a really useful way to spend a few dollars, but it's also just a really potentially fun way to spend a few dollars. Because it's, in a lot of ways, I think that there's a move on the internet toward small scale custom experiences. And one of the other crypto companies we're friends with, we're not really involved with like adult content in really any way, but Spank Chain is another company that we know the founders of, and we think they're smart guys. And one of the things they've done is done a lot of stuff with cam people, like girls sort of on camera, and guys giving sort of custom requests for them. And I've always sort of seen it as like kind of similar to that dynamic, but in terms of like labor and knowledge. So it's like you're sort of custom being able to ask all these people to do whatever you want. And so rather than just sort of buying some sort of standard service. And it's also there's a community nature to it, which I think is a lot different than other things. Because again, one key point to make is that the person who makes the offer, who makes the bounty, they don't choose what the best answers are. The best answers are chosen by the user base. And every single time someone in the user base chooses which answer is better, they also earn ETH just for choosing. Each time they click which answer is better, some little amount of ETH is rewarded to their wallet. And so, what that sort of creates in terms of behavior is that when people respond to a request, it's sort of like they're responding to the person who posted it, but they're also sort of responding to the network, because the network is the one that's going to judge them. And we think that's cool because it basically puts everyone in this stance where they have to try to provide value to the most number of people as possible, which from a browsing perspective is kind of ideal, because then you can, it's not just this one particular person's thing. It's that mixed with, what might provide value to me is just a person reading this page.
Interesting. So if you actually select the winner, or you get paid for voting to select the winner.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
and to contextualize the culture that Max was talking about, I think a simple example is you can imagine the question, what is the best cryptocurrency? And the nature of the responses a lot of times is because people recognize that they're not only serving the original poster, but also the community who's then going to go ahead and sort their responses. It sort of makes it less acerbic. So someone might be like, well, I recognize that XRP is very valuable, but here are some reasons why I think ETH might be better, as opposed to XRP is shit. Here's why ETH is amazing, right? It sort of shifts the culture to a more sort of higher level, enlightened perspective where you're trying not to be necessarily combative, but accommodating to a variety of perspectives, because that'll ultimately determine how much you make. Right?
Totally. And that's one of the things I think a lot of people one of the first pieces of feedback they give us is like, it's just sort of very thoughtful here. Like, people are very, there's very little trolling. There's very little sort of the negative behaviors you see crop up on other services. And part of the reason we think that's the case is that it's sort of a waste of time to troll on Cent, because you could, if you wanted to, but you could have spent that same amount of effort writing something that's actually potentially beneficial, and you would have actually made money that you could spend. And so on other sites where there's sort of, there's no attempt to get money, it's sort of like you have unlimited ammunition to just waste everywhere. And on Cent, it's like you have one response, like use it to the best of your ability. And at the very beginning, we had some trolling, but really in just the first few months, that it sort of died out pretty dramatically. And basically every answer now will be an attempt at a thoughtful response, which is something that it's just sort of a natural outgrowth of the design of the system. Like, we haven't done much on an internal basis or on like a sort of campaign basis to sort of ask people to be thoughtful. That's just sort of what people do, which is we think pretty cool.
Nice. So to that effect, have there been any more like emergent properties that have come in this network, in the Cent network, that you didn't see that you're excited about? You know, how people are using it and what's developed so far?
I think for sure. I think there's been a handful of. I think people. So take, for instance, the example I was talking about earlier. Take the person asking for a logo. One of the cool things we didn't originally realize, but we've realized now, is that requests like that for sort of some sort of piece of content or something that someone can use for a project. Before, you could use some other service like Fiverr or some sort of fiat thing where you can, or 99 Designs or other things where they're kind of similar for that particular use case. But what's different about those is you sort of get all these choices and you have to choose which one you like the best. But for a lot of people, design in general is not like I found that people sort of either have that gene or they don't have that gene, like that, just that sort of sense of what's nice looking and what's not. And for people without that gene, I've worked with people on design level in the past, and their intuitions about what are good and bad are often pretty off. And what you get on Scent is you get all these design choices, but you also get this data of what everyone seems to think is the best one. And so you get this sort of focus group user testing mixed in with the actual creation process itself, and it's all for like a few dollars. And so we found that for projects that are using it in that way, it's sort of this double benefit. I mean, they don't have to choose the one that obviously got the most money if they don't like it, but it's sort of, it's definitely should enter their mind that, wow, 95% of people chose this one. Even if I don't like it so much, maybe that's the one I should go with, because, my goal is to, have people like my project. And so that's definitely something we didn't hypothesize. Cameron, is there anything else you're thinking of?
Yeah, well, actually, when you say that, it makes me think we should definitely do a better job of showcasing that sort of meta-analysis of the responses in the post. So that's a product discussion that probably should be for another time. The only other thing I would add is really the way that we started was very much like crypto Quora. Questions, text responses, no images, no multimedia, none of that. As we evolved our technology to accommodate more different types, it naturally sort of gave way to interesting forms of requests. So like the day that we posted, a few days after we released image embeds, for instance, Mackie, who you know pretty well, posted a Lambo bounty asking, what is your favorite Lambo color? Or if you had a Lambo, what color would it be? And then all of a sudden, because there are images that could be embedded into the content, the nature of the site changed such that people were all about it, right? People were all about posting like images, memes, creative content. And that was a first leap out of what Quora is predominantly, which is a text-based site. And so we saw that start to evolve, and we're like, this is very interesting. We actually want to embody more multimedia and cater to more types of, creative content, creative forms. And so from there, we, added other things. We recently added YouTube embedding, SoundCloud embedding. We plan on adding a ton more as time goes on. But it was sort of interesting seeing the transformation from what we initially conceived as a text-only service, evolving and sort of the users embracing that in ways that we wouldn't expect. Like Max said with the logo design, right? That's a far-fetched, or that's a far reach from what Quora is today, right? That's almost a hybrid of, something like Quora, something like Fiverr. And so seeing it expand like that was not entirely guided by us, but we were sort of always there to accommodate the growth by providing more sort of multimedia services.
Yeah, right now my gears are spinning. Like, how could a podcast take advantage of Scent? Like my gears are spinning.
So actually, we do have. It's not official yet, so I guess this can kind of be our announcement of it. We do have a couple sort of weekly syndicate newsletters that are going to start publishing soon. I won't name them specifically, but that is something that with the launch of Seeding, which we can go into in a bit, it sort of sparked their interest, where we say, post your original content here, and we have a mechanism for you to monetize it. So moving beyond that bounty requirement.
And
exclusive. I like getting exclusives.
Well, I mean, it is. I mean, we technically did launch it like Thursday, and so it's. I think Cameron's talking specifically about this newsletter structure, but this feature actually I would love to transition to talking about, because that's really been our focus for the last few months, and in a lot of ways, we think this is way more important than bountying.
Yes. Let's talk about this. I've seen this pop up. It's relatively new. I was unfamiliar, so fill me in.
Cool. So I'll give you some quick context. So, in a lot of ways, the holy grail for us has been, how do you monetize original content in a way that doesn't do two things? Like, it doesn't rely on altruism, and it doesn't rely on advertising, because altruism is just in short supply. Like, people don't just give money to things, rarely, unless they are like have excess income and they're bored. And advertising fundamentally brings in a third party who has other interests and is often manipulative. And so we're like, how can you possibly do that? And what we came up with was this idea where, what if giving could be incentivized? What if giving itself was self-interest based? And so we started going through all these models, and what we figured out was that we could really ultimately end up with a very simple structure where someone posts content. So say you post this podcast, and next person, someone comes along and I think, this is, a really useful, valuable podcast. I'm going to seed it with money. And what that does is you send money to the content. Part of the money goes, in this case, to you or the creator of the content. And the other chunk of the money goes to everyone before me that seeded that content. And so what that basically does is that when I give money to something, I then receive a stream of income from everyone after me that gives money to the same piece of content. So as an early supporter and a creator, they both make a profit. And that's actually how the world functions. If you look at any sort of popular creative act, the example I use a lot is Taylor Swift. If you were a Taylor Swift fan in 2005, you in a lot of ways are part of, what 10 years later is the phenomenon of a big pop star, because you sort of put yourself out there, and you said, I'm willing to like this person before other people do, and I'm willing to tell my friends about them. And really you should share in some sense in that success. And so what it does is it creates this incentive where if you have seeded some piece of content, like if someone seeds your podcast right now, they are financially incentivized to tell people about it. Not because they like you, not for any altruistic reason, but they're financially incentivized to go out and be like, check this out. And we feel like that sort of is, at the end of the day, what moves people to do things. Like, money is the only objective value humans agree on. And so it's really the only way to create these behavioral funnels. And so this model, which again just went live like 4 days ago, already is getting a lot of use. And it's pretty exciting because we think frankly, we think it's the right answer to this problem. And so yeah, does that sort of make sense?
Yes, it does. And this is also one of those things, like you mentioned earlier, this probably can only be done with smart contracts. No, I don't think PayPal could do anything like this, right? Where it would have, I'm assuming it's using like Merkle trees to keep track of when you seeded and how many seeds came after you to see how much you get remunerated for your seed, correct?
Well, actually, so we're taking a more centralized initial approach. We do intend to bring it on-chain into a contract. Right now, the point at which we leverage contracts most is via user funds, and not us maintaining custody of them, but the user maintaining custody in a contract. And then once they sign them off-chain in a state channel, we can then take that balance and then reapply it, distribute it as needed. But the points that you brought up are super valid. Any service operating like that today in traditional fiat has to deal with right? Money service business concerns. If you operate a PayPal account, your PayPal account getting frozen, right? One of the big benefits of cryptocurrency is that once it is on chain and has confirmations, that money is staying there, right? It is yours and nobody can take it from you. Operating out of a third party service like Stripe or PayPal and with fiat intermediaries creates huge headaches for us. And so while we're not fully decentralized in the sense of how we route money through the system, we are decentralized in the most important aspect, which is custody of funds or lack thereof in our case. But that is something that, as like I was alluding to earlier, a little bit about transparency, and fairness in a system like Cent, where there's a lot of money flowing and you do want to be able to audit it as an end user sometimes. Embracing a smart contract solution, like you were saying, something with Merkle trees as like, simplifying state transitions, that sort of thing, could be very beneficial long term.
Yeah, I think long term it definitely could be. And this seeding thing is really awesome. What's really funny is we Cello and Corey and I were in DEF CON, and Cello and I came back early. Corey stayed for the remaining days. I don't know. Did you guys go out to DEF CON this year?
Huge FOMO about missing DEF CON, but we were actually launching seeding that week, and so we were heads down, grinding very hard at the laptops, etc. But
probably the better option, to tell you the truth.
I heard it was really great this year. Bear market DEF CON was way better than bull. So we actually went to Cancun, and personally, I was turned off by Cancun because everyone was rich, and when you're rich, you love to show off and be flashy, and I just felt like it was not catered to. Like, I was at DEF CON 2 the year before that in Shanghai, and I just felt like I walked away, enlightened and inspired, and everything at DEF CON 3 was almost the opposite of that. But I did have FOMO, and then the FOMO heightened as crypto Twitter, without failing, just pushed all of this news, all this information constantly. Everyone seemed to be having a fun time, and yeah, so. Long story short, FOMO, but it was worth it with the seeding launch.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say we'll be there next year. But we're also in the process of raising our next round of funding, and so we had some meeting. We had a lot to sort of handle here. So yeah, there's a bunch of factors for why we couldn't make it this year. But we want to actually have a pretty big presence there next year, because within the Ethereum community, we often get mentioned as sort of to lay people as like, what can Ethereum actually do? We're often something people point to and be like, well, check out this thing with, questions and answers and content. And so, because it's easy, it's simple. And so I think definitely. For a lot of stuff built on Ethereum is, I don't think one of my common critiques of the crypto space is there's this assumption that the mainstream world is just as nerdy as you, and they're not. And so, yeah. And so, we have this same thing internally. We call it the grandma test, or like, could a grandma use this? Not to diss any grandmas. I know there's some pretty enlightened grandmas out there, but just in general, have people that are not, and we're not quite there yet, to be honest. I think we still have most of our user base is still sort of crypto type community. And I think a lot of that's because we are a real DApp, and, you need to use MetaMask right now or some wallet, to use it, and just the knowledge of how to use a wallet is way past the skill set of laymen, and so we're really doing all we can to get rid of that, and that's one area where we really want to be on the cutting edge, is just the UX of simple dApps. Like if there's a dApp out there, if anyone listening to this knows of a dApp out there that is easier to use than Cent, we'd love to know, and essentially we'd love to copy them, whatever they're doing, because that's one thing we feel like we could win on, and we just want to hit that as hard as we can.
It's funny you say like not everybody's as nerdy as we think they are, and that is absolutely true. But I do think that like general geeky nerdiness is slowly taking over.
It's the Reddit culture, right?
Say what?
It's the Reddit culture.
Yeah.
A lot of Reddit is geeks, right? And more people every day are going on to Reddit and sort of subscribing to those notions, those ideals, that sort of thing. The future will have much more enlightened from a technological perspective population. It's just the transition from here to there. Definitely going to be a lot of rockiness from a UX perspective.
And just to clarify, I think it's not that I think when I say nerdiness, I don't quite just mean like intelligence. I mean that there's different types of intelligence. And I think that, for instance, in my own life, like there's sort of this tech part of my brain and there's like music part of my brain. And I sort of have my tech friends and my music friends. And I always think about, on nights when I hang out with my tech friends or nights when I hang out with my music friends, I'm like, these are very different types of humans, but they're all very intelligent in their own way, but it's a very different type. And I think, a lot of culture can respond to, high artistic intelligence, at more of a larger amounts of people can respond to that because they don't really have to understand it. They can just feel the beauty of whatever the person made and they're drawn to it. Whereas with technical intelligence, it's like they end up using, the products of technical intelligence all the time, even if they don't understand them. It's like, how many people really understand electricity? Probably very few, but we benefit from it. But, and the same thing with, how many people understand the structure of a pop song? Probably very few, but they still enjoy it. And I think that there's, if I just kind of want to bring in a lot more of that, the sensory experience of experiencing beautiful, creative things, whatever those may be. And I think that will, just sort of temper the sort of tech nerdiness, that's the current niche that we're in, just so that we can reach a broader audience and just provide value to more people. Like if you're a hardcore nerd out there and you want to, there'll be still, of course, a space for you. But I just also want to bring in people that are, like for instance, last night, I'm in New York right now, and I was meeting with one of my advisors, and his fiance was with us, and she was taking a look at the site for the first time, and what she basically said was like, I love this concept. I love the UI. I love all, but she's like, honestly, the content, she's like, I'm thinking about my wedding right now. I'm thinking about like, if I have a child in 2 years, like where I'm going to send him to school. She's like, that's what's alive for me, not, which proof of work algorithm works best. And so, she's like, I would use this if the content, spoke to me. And I think, that's in general something we really want to think about hard and have a really good strategy for, is how do we get into those other people's lives? And I think a lot of that comes from, we don't have to go into this now, but partnering with different influencers and, doing sort of, what we think is a very sort of, marketing forward approach, based on what people are really doing now and using now. And
what I think would be interesting is, as it gets more and more popular, if it gets, to a point, like some of the emergent social properties that would exist, like I can imagine there would be like seeding syndicates and, influencers that hop on there and bring massive waves of people and start kind of maybe even influencing, what people pay attention to. That I think that would be very interesting, because then you'd have a new data point to kind of measure these quote unquote influencers.
That's really interesting. I feel like and the other point I want to quickly make is that we think of all these things as experiments. Like we think of it, we spend a lot of time thinking and charting out the possible scenarios before we release something. So, they're not experiments in the sense of they're just, off the cuff and we release it, but they're experiments in the sense that we can only plan so much, and then we got to just see what people do. Like since we released Bounty, we've iterated on it. Yeah, we've iterated on it quite a bit, based on usage. And, of course, I could see us doing the same thing with seeding over time. And so, just know that that's kind of what you're walking into is, people both from the user end and from the development end, we all share the same goal. Like we all want the same thing, for this to be really enjoyable and for everyone to make a lot of money and for, people to be, free from jobs they don't like. But what the actual implementation of that'll be will surely evolve. And so we just want to put that out there that, it's always going to be evolving, and it's not just this, look at it now, this is what it is. If you're out there and you look at our system and, you think of a little nuance we could add that would make it much better, like please reach out. We've had users do that all the time, and we've changed the product because of it. If you even know about Scent, like you're probably a pretty smart person. And so, please like make it go through your head. And if anything interesting comes out, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah. I wish, the reason I brought up DevCon to begin with is because like out of the blue, our other host, Corey Petty, I don't know if you know Corey from Status. He was like, hey, we need to start putting our shows on Scent. And I was like, yes. What? I was like,
yeah.
I was like, what? What are you talking about? And he was like, no, I was just talking to people at DevCon, and we need to start putting our shows on Scent, which led to me contacting you guys on Twitter, by the way, because I was like, oh man, I forgot all about Scent. I haven't checked in on them in a while. And then I looked and I was like, oh, it's changed a lot. It's getting better. And then I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna get them on the show to kind of learn a little bit. So,
totally.
That's where that all stemmed from. Is just the one random comment. I think he was like on a layover between like Brussels and Prague, or Brussels and the States, and he was like, "We need to start putting our stuff on Scent." And I was like, "What?" That's all you're gonna say? Like just one line? What are you talking about?
That's amazing. I mean, that's obviously music to our ears, and it's really cool to see. It's cool to just see something digitally proliferate. Like I remember when we started this at the beginning. Every time we mentioned it to someone, we would have to explain what it is. They've never heard of it. And now more and more, I'll mention, I run this thing called Cent. I'll be like, oh, Cent, yeah, I know Cent. And that's just such a high. I'm like, oh my God, you know about it. That's amazing. Like it feels like this little baby you made is now like getting famous to some degree, and it's extremely exciting to watch it become. It has sort of its little. I think it's one of the go-to dApps when people talk about like the top 5 dApps, and that's really cool because we like to think we started pretty early on this before people were really focused on making simple usable dApps, and I think that's part of the reason that we've been able to claim that sort of spot. Is just that we've now we've only been around like a year, but it's in this world that's a solid amount of time. So yeah, that's great to hear though that type of talk is occurring because that's
so exactly how could we do that? What if we made like this episode our what's the word, inaugural episode on Cent?
Yes,
I guess
very easy.
Do we just throw it up there and then we seed it with some ether and we say, hey, this is how much ether this puppy's seeded for, so you share it, you're going to get a piece of that action?
Well, wait, so let me clarify something because I can tell this is actually a common confusion and we're doing a lot to clarify this. So okay. when you post something, okay, so say you posted this podcast, which I hope you will because I feel like it's obviously pretty relevant to our user base as well. What'll happen is 2 things. You can add an optional bounty, which I would encourage you to do. Very little amount, like $10, $20, whatever you want to do. And then you can say, you could post the podcast and then say, ask them some sort of question. Be like, how could I make this better? Like what was your favorite part? And anything you want them to do to engage. Because what's cool about that is that if you're a content creator like you are, and you post your content and then you post a bounty for people to answer a question about it, what that does is it forces them to actually listen to the content or watch the content. It actually forces them to experience it, which really there's no other way on the internet to make sure someone actually fully listened and digested your thing. There's a way to see views, but who knows what a view means. And so with this, it's like they actually have to experience it and then think about it and then respond in a way that they think is the most valuable way they could respond compared to everybody else. And so I would encourage you to add some sort of bounty of some sort of response. But then beyond all that, you don't add the seed as a creator. You just post it. It's free to post. You just post it. And then users come along and they'll listen to the podcast and they think, wow, other people are going to think this is valuable. That's when they seed it. And then other people after them seed it. But again, every time someone seeds, you make ETH as the creator, but then all the early seeders also will make money if enough seeders come after them. And to give a quick sense of the numbers, right now the numbers we're using is that, say, for instance, you post this and an hour later it's been like seeded $1 or something. If I were to then seed at $1, if I were to add my own seed when it's at $1, the basic calculation you can have in your head is that, okay, when this reaches $4 or 4x, whatever it is currently, that's when I'll start making profit. So if I seed it when it's at $1 and I come back 2 days later and it's at $10, I'll know that, wow, I made money by giving to this thing. And so that's where the fans come in, is the seeding. The bounty is more the poster.
Can you always seed however much you want, or is it like if it's $1 seed and then you come back and it's $10, then do you have to put in? Is it like poker? You gotta put in $10 to keep seeding it, or do you just always seed however much you want?
You can put however much you want in, and the degree to which you give is indicative of the degree to which you have stake in the seeders after you when they seed, how much you receive from that. So if you really believe that something's going to blow up like huge, then it's in your interest to seed a lot and seed early.
Okay. So it's proportional to how much the total amount is.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. I was overthinking that for some reason. I was like, oh God, I was really overthinking that. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Okay. Well, I think we've pretty much hit all the high notes. I've been excited about your growth for a while. I'm glad that you came back on my radar via one small statement. coming from DevCon. So DevCon did touch you, even though you didn't go to it. DevCon came to you.
DevCon is everywhere. It's the truth.
Yeah. I think I saw some posts today. They're like, we should shard DevCon for 2019. And I was like, oh boy. And I was like, actually, it could be a good idea if you had like 3 different cities doing DevCon at the same time. I don't know how that would work, but
I would love E-tracks, right? Where if one city has something all about curation markets, another one has all focused on scalability research, another one has financial services. I think that'd be great, and then people could just go to the interests or where their interests lie.
Yeah, go to the track. Yeah,
I think I'm a little mixed on that idea. I think sometimes there's this like decentralization ethos that permeates everything in crypto, but there's clearly some benefits to centralization. I mean, I think the fact that the crypto revolves around these global conferences all the time, these things that literally just centralize people is always funny to me. That you traveled from around the world to come just to have an organic conversation that you didn't know you might not have. And one of the things I like about the conferences is I'll go and there'll always be a few talks that I'm interested in, but a lot of them I don't think I'm interested in, but I'm there and I'll walk in and inevitably I'll learn stuff. And oftentimes those are the talks where I'll learn the most stuff, because I often think that being not interested in something is just a proxy for not really understanding it. And so if you go and you understand it a little more, you might be like, oh, ZK snarks are actually kind of an interesting idea, or whatever it might be. And so, yeah, I think I feel the same FOMO about Cameron for not going, but we'll definitely, I think over the next year, we'll have a much stronger presence at conferences than we've had. Because we're sort of, and the last thing I just want to interject is, we are, again, in this investment round right now. And if you're an accredited investor who invests in crypto things, please reach out to, me or Cameron. We'd love to chat with you.
Nice. I'm not an accredited investor. I will be at one point in my life, though.
I believe in you.
It's like a life goal to get there.
You'll get there.
But I guess it's time for our trademark question. I don't know if you're familiar. Actually, Nathaniel Whittemore uses Cent, and he asked our trademark question on Cent, and it got some very interesting responses. But he asked it for Bitcoin. I'm going to ask you guys for Ether, or Ethereum, in 10 words or less. Can you describe Ethereum?
In 10 words or less. All right, give me 10 seconds. I would say I would say an updated substructure of the internet that eliminates middlemen in transactions.
Ooh, that's 10 on the dot.
Nice.
Updated substructure of the internet that eliminates middlemen via transactions. Is that what you said?
I think I said in transactions.
Transactions.
Yeah.
Okay. I like that one. That's going to be good. It's going to be in a book, by the way. So there you go.
So I would say that
I got some babies going on over there.
Yeah, man.
Let me.
I would say that it's a public ledger secured by digital signatures and random computers.
So that's 9 words. So you both did it. Congratulations.
And I think you can tell which one of us is the CTO and which one of us is.
I think it's awesome what you guys are doing. I love your approach. It's definitely a speak softly, carry big stick kind of approach. You're the word about what you're doing is spreading slowly, and like all things internet, it'll probably reach a little viral vertical point. Hopefully in the near future. I hope you guys are ready for that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Try to go on Shark Tank. Like, we just interviewed somebody who went on Shark Tank and got a deal from Mr. Wonderful. That was kind of cool.
I would want to go on the one that Vinny's on. I think that's Shark Tank South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to deal with like Mark Cuban types, but Vinny seems like a smart guy.
Yeah. This guy got 250% increase in sales overnight from that show. Is that not bananas? I thought that was bananas. I was like,
that's
wow.
Awesome.
Or no, he said increase in business, which is very fucking vague. But but he did say is a large increase. Anyways, I don't want to go too far on a tangent. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Cameron, for swinging by. Thank you for actually showing people like, hey, there's a use case for this stuff. Boom, right here. We've built it and it works.
Yep. And come use it. We're ready to go.
It's not just PowerPoint slides and dreams. It's an actual product and it works and people are using it and it's fantastic. So thank you guys.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
And that was the interview with Max and Cameron. The perfect pairing of names. Max and Cam. Or is it Cam and Max? You're going to have to ask them. What
like sitcom couple are they?
The catfish guys.
Catfish guys? You mean like the
Neve and
Max.
Max, yeah.
I don't know what the catfish guys are. Is that something that I'm missing? Like noodling?
Very popular TV show on MTV. Been on for about a decade.
There's shows still on. People still watch MTV.
Yeah, young people do.
You never heard of catfish?
No, I know what it means to get catfished, but I don't know there's a show about it.
It came from that.
They made that phrase. That's them that did that.
Oh, I thought you were talking about noodling.
What's noodling?
Oh, is that where you stick your whole arm in a lake?
You fish people you fish for these big ass fish by just shoving your fist in a hole and the fish bites it and you pull them out with your hand. It's like a backwater sport that's really weird.
Has anyone ever lost an arm noodling?
I couldn't tell you. I'm not an avid fan.
Going on facesofdeath.noodling.com after this.
That wouldn't be what I'd call noodling. Am I right?
I saw that coming. Well played, sir.
Yeah.
All right. So we actually opened up the lines to live callers, and they are clearly springing off the hook. Chillo's dashboard has red lights going, and we're just ignoring them all for right now.
Deny.
Yeah, we'll let you guys come in when we feel we want to let you in the show. But there is something that I wanted to talk about. Corey, you and I got into kind of a discussion. We were talking about ASIC resistance.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between ASIC proof and ASIC resistance. I kind of like, just to make it easy on my thought processes, I think of it as the same as like the difference between waterproof and water resistant, right? Like waterproof means, hey, you could throw this shit in the ocean, you dig it out 15 years later, congratulations, it's still going to work. Water resistant means throw it in the ocean and it's not going to work. It's resistant to water for so long and at so much depth. And I think that's how I kind of liken all these algorithms that claim that they're ASIC resistant, is like they're only so resistant for so long. So we got an interesting discussion.
And that's the appropriate way to look at it. I think ASIC proof is, like you called it, a farce. There are some circumstances where that's reasonable based on how the things that say they are ASIC proof are basically things that change the algorithm dynamically. And so, like, as a background, I can recap what I talked about on the general channel of our Slack, is that in order to make an ASIC, you basically make these long sheets, these long wafers, these silicone sheets of all the circuitry associated with it. And they do it in real big ones. So you can basically stamp out the actual independent ASIC chip from a massive sheet. So you can fit 100, I don't know the actual numbers, but let's just say 100 ASICs on a single manufactured sheet. And these sheets are very, very specially designed to be have a ratio of computation to the amount of memory required to do the computation. For SHA-256, which is used for Bitcoin, it's mostly computation and not a lot of memory. And so what people said, in order to combat this, they made things that were memory hard algorithms that those things couldn't efficiently do using the stamped out pieces for Bitcoin things, because the manufacturing process wasn't designed to have that much memory in the large sheet. And so people just made memory hard things because ASICs didn't have a lot of memory and couldn't do them. So then you needed to do more research and development to make new types of ASICs and manufacture those sheets and all this associated costs with manufacturing those things. That's a lot of money, and you're not going to do it unless there's a large potential upside to using the final product of those things. And so people just basically kept changing things, and also its memory takes up a lot more space than CPUs. And so it becomes way more difficult to manufacture those sheets efficiently and cost effectively that give you the type of hash rate you need to make money mining those things. And that's what the previous ASIC resistance was.
Is it a safe assumption that whenever we see a large multi-million-dollar investment in a mining operation, that's for research and development for a new ASIC?
Yeah, and they're trying to make the hardware to get the highest amount of hash rate for a specific algorithm for the lowest amount of wattage.
Mm-hmm.
So you put energy in, you plug it into the wall, you put energy into the cycle, it then pumps out hash rate. You're trying to maximize the amount of hashes you get for a specific algorithm in ASIC for the lowest amount of energy input. And that's a lot of research and development, a lot of iteration. And
trying to get a lot of juice for that squeeze.
And so the thing is, with SHA-256, the algorithm that you're optimizing for hasn't changed over the entire course of all of the iteration. And we went from really crappy ASICs in the beginning to really, really, really good ones. And that's because the algorithm hasn't changed. And the moment you change the algorithm, the ASIC is basically washed away along with all a good portion of the research and development. And that's a lot of cost. And so when people say they're ASIC resistance, what they're basically saying is that it's probably not feasible for someone to put that much cost into making an ASIC for this type of thing, or it's infeasible for this to be efficiently manufactured based on how things are manufactured. And so because of that, people are less likely to build ASICs for this thing. And so the most optimal way to do it is using commoditized hardware like GPUs or CPUs. And that's all they're saying. And so
I would love for there to be a crypto with an algorithm that was resistant enough to where it could mine while you play video games or something. That would be so awesome.
What is mining? You have to remember, and this is another point I pointed out, is all of this work, all of this research and development and money and jobs are going into something that is basically solving a Sudoku puzzle and not contributing to validating transactions or sending blocks or all of the other stuff you associate with free money. All it's doing is solving proof of work. And don't get me wrong, that's a very valuable thing to do because it's the only, in my opinion, fair way to show that you did a certain amount of work without having to prove it or be trusted. From a very, very, very strong computation and mathematical point of view that if you show that proof, then you did the work and expended some reasonable amount of energy associated with doing that work. Okay, cool. Since you did all that work, we're going to trust that you're following the rules, which we can check after you submit things, and that you're reasonably honest. Because in order to cheat the system and do all that work is really stupid.
What was that?
I don't know. I
kind of ringtones. Hey, have you guys looked at coinmine.com? It's this plug and play mining machine for I don't know, plugs into your phone or it connects with your phone, and you can mine Zcash and Monero and
by this they say mine. You're just basically doing some pitiful amount of hash rate compared to the total hash rate. You're just doing it.
You can have a giant gold pickaxe and crazy lats and traps, and you're mining your ass off, or you could just have a little itty bitty shovel and you're scraping off the surface.
Looks like a little Xbox.
Yeah,
it's more Xbox. Those are just for, I don't know, bragging rights. It's just learning how things work, or playing around, or just saying you contribute, but don't think you're going to be profitable for something like that.
Was the Zoolander meme when he's walking in the mine?
Everybody's working,
and he's walking like he's doing a lot of work, but he hasn't done shit. That's basically what you do.
I think I've got the black lung, Pop.
So if I buy this for $7.99, it's not guaranteed that I'll break even.
No. I almost will guarantee that you won't break even.
Oh, Hey, welcome to our new sponsor, CoinMine. Guaranteed not to break even. Brought to you by the TBB podcast.
It's fun. It's cool. It makes you learn a lot. It's like this. It's a conversation piece around the things. You may get some passive money that you can spend on things, but you're not going to pay for the device.
Oh no, I'm glad. I was curious myself, so I'm glad you set that straight.
I mean, I would have one. It'd be cool.
I'll reach out. Maybe we can review it.
Yeah, I'd love to review it. I mean, I just don't see from a technical perspective how you can mine these things and it be profitable, because the mining technology iterates so rapidly. Like that research and development iteration phase of making things tremendously better over a short amount of time is still happening.
Well, I get the marketing. Did you miss mining Bitcoin in the early days? Well, don't be left in the rain. Join the next wave. That's how they're trying to hook you.
It's basically what they're doing is putting like really, really powerful GPUs in that thing, and then software, and then the software associated with using those GPUs to mine on various coins, because those chains have become quote unquote ASIC resistance, and so the only way to actually mine on them is to use commoditized hardware like GPUs. And so they just built one of those and then made it pretty and then made software around it that made it really, really easy to use, and it's just sits in your home and does it. That's cool. That's an easy way to interact with that technology, understand that portion of how all of this works, and possibly make a little side change for spending on things that may end up becoming more worth more later on down the line.
Their marketing, so funny. They might as well say like, "Do you like snakes? No. Do you like oil? Yes. Well, here's some snake oil." That's what they might as well say. Because it's garbage. Sorry. I'm sorry to shit on Coin. Oh, wait. We're supposed to be reaching out to them, right? Oh, CoinMine. If you hear this, ignore what I just said.
We'll take your product and review it.
Where do you see it all going, though? Because I remember what was really awesome when we first got into Bitcoin and all this crypto stuff is that you saw these stories of guys that were like, yeah, my computer, I just had it running, and I had 5,000 Bitcoin. It's crazy. It was just running from my computer. And now we're at a point where if you don't have like nation state money, you don't even think about getting into Bitcoin mining. Like you need a Walmart sized facility, and you need a bunch of cheap labor, and you need a army of smart ass people to keep that shit running and maintained. Like where does it go from here? Like what does it even look like if it keeps?
Well, I don't even know if that's right, because then Dave Carlson had all that and that shit didn't work out for him. So
he was just making the facilities to run those things in. I remember
his
whole pitch was bring your own hardware, and I guess that didn't work. He just found places that have really good energy and like enough infrastructure to run all this stuff. Because you need like cheap energy, cooling facilities, space, server racks, people administrating things, etc.
Mm-hmm. That's something I use my nuts with. Is I think that proof of work is going to push the proliferation of renewable energy research. That's what I think.
I don't know. There's a couple different ways this can go. Like proof of stake, if used appropriately, if it works out, could put an end to a lot of this stuff. Other people feel that that's never going to happen, and that proof of work is the only way to do it. We're just going to get better at doing proof of work and being more energy efficient. And don't get me wrong. There's a lot of value in proof of work. It's staking an external scarce resource. That's the all like proof of work or proof of storage or proof of whatever is staking some resource that's scarce, so that you can, basically claim that you're going to follow the rules because you don't want to lose that resource, that scarce resource.
Corey, you want to win a Nobel Prize? You ready for this? You got a whiteboard?
I have a whiteboard.
Proof of stake work. Think it up. Make it a thing.
I don't like the whole term as proof of too many things. I mean, unless it's used appropriately. Like a proof of work is an actual computational proof of doing work. Yeah.
You're not hyphening though. You got to put a hyphen in between stake and work.
And proof of work, you are staking something. Like proof of work is a type of proof of stake. You are staking real world energy, but into running this computation over and over and over again until you get the right answer. Like, that's literally what you're doing. You're staking all of that energy up front, and it's an external resource. With proof of stake, you're staking an internal resource, the native token of the system, onto the blockchain and saying, I'm going to follow all the rules. If something goes wrong, take the money away. So that has to have some type of value associated with it. And if it's right, then add to that stake.
Proof of stake work.
Proof of stake work.
All right, guys.
Stwork.
I think no one's calling in. Might be a wrap.
Yeah.
No, they all called in.
Calls today.
To talk to you guys. No, nobody called in. It's great that you guys, that people asked to call in.
Yeah. I guarantee people are going to be upset that they didn't make it. Granted, this is a very inconvenient time across the nation. We have a lot. I know we have a lot of people on the West Coast, right? And so the odds of them waking up at 8 o'clock to call into the Bitcoin podcast is not good.
Yeah, it's close to zero, actually. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a morning show. People don't have afternoon radio talk shows.
Yeah, but it's also on Saturdays. Who the hell's like people call in when they're on the way to work for, like, that's why people listen to morning shows, is because they're commuting to work.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to. I think if we
don't make excuses for the people.
I'm also on the East Coast, and I like my Saturdays. So
wake up, call in.
If we want more participation, we got to change this time. But the last thing I want to talk about is: did you guys see that Avengers trailer? Oh my god!
No, is that the one where like he's like trapped in space or some shit, or like touching the helmet?
What was good about it?
Yeah. What do you mean? What was good about it? It's coming. There's going to be a new Avengers.
The worst heroes are in there. Ant-Man and Hawkeye. Nobody asked for them.
You're talking to D, man. They pumped it up enough and be like, "This is going to be the best movie ever," and D's like, "Oh, selling it. It's sold."
That's all you need to say.
Well, it's not the real trailer. It's like the first of 3, and the first one's always sucks. Yeah, the second one will probably be dope, or the third. But
well, here's the thing: is that all the other heroes are coming back. They just did that.
They're a money machine, and they know it. They don't have to put any more effort in.
Yeah, but before we get that, we're gonna get a whole bunch of Hawkeye, and then a little bit of Ant-Man.
Dude, there's no way. It's
Paul
gonna
Rudd
be a
is
Hawkeye
awesome.
Ant-Man movie.
Paul Rudd's cool. It's just
He's not
this
a
is like
superhero.
Yeah, this is like the last Avengers. So we're gonna get a bunch of comic relief and a bunch of sad Hawkeye.
That's not even close to true.
And then you got Scarlett Johansson. Like all the heroes that nobody cares about are lived.
Scarlett Johansson is like one of the hottest people on the planet.
She's got that going for her.
Yeah. She can't play an Asian robot, though. That's for sure. They should have got that fixed. I don't know. I'm excited about it. It looked awesome. Iron Man's still in it. So there's that. But yeah, other than that, we can wrap it up.
Yeah, join the Slack. Join the conversation. I'm looking at a thread right now that's discussing Yogi's peanut butter banana granola bar juice for vaping. So it really goes into a lot of different places.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some thread between Ken and Colin. But like basically, like we had that conversation about ASIC mining where I detailed how all of that works in terms of like a cost-benefit analysis of doing the research and making ASICs for things. So and how that moves towards ASIC resistance, and we also talk about vaping and Street Fighter. So,
and I went back and forth with Corey about how consensus and the way people have jobs in this space, how it should be structured moving forward.
Yeah, that was a good part.
I would really like to get someone who got canned from the consensus stuff to come on and don't bash Lubin, but I would like to get some inside invoice.
Oh, yeah. I think I could probably facilitate that.
Yeah, like did you just come to work one day and boom, you got an email? Like, was it gradual? Do you agree with it? Do you not? I'd like to hear some.
I know what it was like.
How do you know what it's like?
Because I know somebody that works at Consensus.
Yeah. Someone, I better not be who I think it is.
Did you ask her?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, boo her. I mean, a real person at Consensus, a developer.
She is a real person at Consensus.
Boo.
So you're just a slightly sexist, but that's okay.
I'm not sexist. I'm talking about the meetup people. The people that do meetups, they're the first people to go. They're not those people don't count. I mean, like a real person building Web 2.0 or 3.0. That's what I mean. I don't have time to navigate people's feelings and real people.
That doesn't make any sense. One, she's a real person.
She organizes
Two,
fight clubs. I'm talking about someone who got was rubbing shoulders with Lubin. It was a shock.
Those guys don't get.
Oh, they don't get canned. I think the people who got canned was all of the ancillary services that kind of didn't fit into well pigeoned holes that then lead to profitable conclusions. Oh shit, we got someone to join the Slack.
The people that hand out T-shirts
someone
at
called
the conferences channel? Those are the people that got canned.
Yes, the crypto. What's up?
Who's this?
Number.
What was that? Sorry.
How did you get this number?
How did we get this number? Did you call us? You called us.
You called us, buddy.
Tell us your
I'm
name.
glad you laughed.
Yeah. Oh, it's Wayne. I knew yes to crypto.
I knew who that was. I was waiting for it. What's up, man?
Hey.
How are you, buddy?
How's it going?
How's the Ask Me Anything everyone call in been going this morning?
So we had about 400 callers. You're the only one we took.
You slipped in. Yeah, you slipped in.
I don't know how you got it.
I have my camera turned off, but I'm literally sweating from rejecting all those calls. The dashboard was just lit up like a Christmas tree. Holly jolly. But no, you're the first caller, so.
and we were wrapping up, so.
Yeah.
And you were doing the 401st caller gets in, and I made it.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I think my book arrives today.
Really?
Oh, snap. Let us know what you think. Hope you like it.
I better get signatures.
Oh, yeah.
You have to see us at somewhere. We have to meet up again sometime in Texas and then get some signatures on it.
Or DC or wherever.
If you're around, I will sign your book. I will gladly sign anybody's book.
I'm going to go to that level.
I'm coming for you.
I only sign books in that bright, sparkly Sharpie marker that they make nowadays. Golden signatures are all I hand out.
I have a gold Sharpie and I have a silver Sharpie.
There you go.
And he keeps them on his person at all times.
I do for signatures. I've got band signatures.
Bitcoin is the digital gold.
What do you get when you get bands to sign things? What do you get them to sign? An LP or a shirt or what? A napkin?
I have VIP passes and meet and greet passes. I have CDs with me. Anything that I can get that's commemorative specific to them. So
do you still have a CD player?
Absolutely.
Nice.
Do you have a CD collection? I know people who are in audiophiles have really nice CD collections and players.
And LPs. LPs, I think. I mean, I still am an LP person. So, but I do enjoy CDs. Yeah.
Are those records?
I can respect
that. Some of them are, yes. They're
nice.
They're framed. Yeah.
So, you got a question, comment, concern?
Well, what's the topic so I can keep your flow?
We were just wrapping up. You can talk about whatever you want.
We were.
Well,
you can do the whole live from Saturday night. You can play us out.
Well, after 300-ish, I'll round episodes, and you guys were big on price, and you said, "Oh no, we're not a price show." Given this week's work, how much have you been talking about price?
Actually, I think we spent a good portion of this show talking about price.
Okay.
And in investment strategy and.
We weren't talking about price. We were talking about investment strategy, and we went into it about how the Sharpe ratio can help you balance and rebalance your portfolio depending on how much exposure to risk you have, depending on what you own. Risk being defined by how much is that shit worth and its distance from zero.
Okay.
The closer to zero it is, the lower the risk.
Did you go over averaging down so that if people don't panic, if, for example, if they bought a year ago or a year and change ago, let's say, they're the average investor and they're really mad right now or confused or something other than happy, and either they're considering selling, they may relook at the price now. And if they could afford something back then, maybe they can afford something now. And if they were to, again, hashtag, say it with me, not investment advice.
Not investment advice, yeah.
Way to do it on point there, D.
Right. If they were to, the best advice usually for people who are not traders is to continually invest over time, the dollar cost averaging. But if they were to, pump something into their current investment, especially at these prices, they reduce their average cost. So, what a deal, right? And now that if you look at Bitcoin, we're at the 200-day moving average, and that traditionally is a level of support that almost nobody can
break through.
Right. Well, it can break through, but traditionally in pretty much any asset you look at the 200-day moving average, it's something that you're not going to, nobody's going to look twice at. Okay, that's something that if you do break through, then, a lot of people are going to look at that. And so that's traditionally an extremely good time to either reinvest or, then make a decision. So,
yeah.
We saw some bounce back from that yesterday, and then as you keep relooking, a lot of people are going to be making decisions at that time. So that's another good time for you to reevaluate what you're doing with your portfolio. So whether or not you're a Bitcoin maximalist, or if you've got into Ethereum and then you're against all the other things that are not Ethereum, or you got in late and you got into EOS, and so now you're against anything that's not EOS, or you're just a crypto maximalist, like I am, where, everything is, adoption of everything helps everything, for us to get away from the mostly corrupt existing financial and banking system. Then, spread adoption like the Bitcoin Podcast Network does, and try to get to know as much as you can about all of the different systems, and go to something that you like.
Something you mentioned that I'm not sure everyone quite understands is that concept of averaging down. And so, like, say when you purchase that initial expensive Bitcoin and it's gone down in price, if you buy another Bitcoin at this price, it averages the average price of your investment, which means that it's easier to recoup your money.
Exactly. And this is huge in trading as well. So it's not just because that's what you're doing anyway. I mean, for to most people who are new to asset trading, you are trading your USD, your dollars, for some Bitcoin. And when you get into then trading on the major exchanges, for 2015, 2016, and half of 2017, the only thing you could trade was Bitcoin for then a few hundred other coins. And then in 2017, you started getting other pairs where you could trade Ethereum and Monero, and then starting with Tether, you could trade other things for other assets. And it's the same thing with that. And so a lot of people who dabbled in trading in 2017 and 2018, they started having the same problem. They took some of their Bitcoin at really high prices and they traded it for some altcoin, and then the value went really down. They started looking at the dollar value of that, and then they're throwing their papers in there and saying, I don't care about crypto anymore. Look at how much money I lost. When they're not realizing one Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin. Yeah. That has not changed. And fiat value is what has changed. So if they put in their mindset that the fiat value is a losing proposition over time, then maybe crypto is where they should keep their mind, and the averaging down can still happen. And what they're doing is they could have a much better deal now that that value has gone down, and this could really help them.
Bitcoin fire sale.
Yeah, it is.
It all depends on their time preference, right?
Well, not preference. He's talking about complete outlook, like your total worldview on where you think value actually, what the base value thing is. And so, if you think the monetary system is going to go away and isn't to be trusted over the I guess foreseeable future, then and when that comes down, people will find value in things like Bitcoin because it's unstoppable. Then maybe these price drops are actually just good opportunities to maximize the amount of Bitcoin you can get, as opposed to buying it to be sold later.
We know, I say we know, we suspect the tremendous manipulation that's going on in the market. And just think about this. We know of the interest of the wealthy wanting to get somewhere in crypto. We know that the laws state, at least in the United States and in most countries, that the tax that you pay on an asset is the fair market value of the asset at the time that you gain control of the asset. Well, Bitcoin has gone from 19.5, based on CoinMarketCap, on December 7th, 2017, down to 3,200, 3,300, 3,400 right now. Well, OTC markets still happen. Can you imagine the OTC market deals that are going on yesterday of Bitcoin trading hands at a fair market value in the 3,000s? These don't show up on the exchanges. These don't show up on CoinMarketCap. But these are the deals where thousands of Bitcoin can trade hands on the OTC is over the counter. So these don't show up in the things that we can see, but we'll see transactions happening. And wouldn't you know, we saw lots of Bitcoin trading hands, moving wallets over the last week or two. And these are the things that I think are happening, where the OTC deals are happening so that they can get the FMV for those deals at a really, really low cost, so that if they do have to pay taxes, they could pay it at the very low amount. Now they can start spreading. Now they can build their businesses. Now they can do the ETF maybe in February. And those are the infrastructure plays that I think show not financial support, but infrastructure support for why Bitcoin and crypto are a really good investment.
Yeah. It's a sound investment, just not looking at it in the past year. If you got in this time last year, you're not thinking that.
Exactly. But most people aren't.
That's kind of like the whole point of why Wayne's saying this, is that people should be thinking about that, or at least be knowledgeable about it, so they can make better decisions, or like not be so scared, or like thinking about when they read things like Cointelegraph articles or CoinDesk articles that, you know, the sky is falling. Like there's a lot of things that are happening that don't show up in these signals that everyone uses to justify what's going on in the space. Like people don't talk about these things.
Right. And who coordinates or wouldn't it be convenient that those articles all get coordinated, simultaneously? You know, I don't want to come off as a tinfoil hat type of person, but it does seem coordinated that a lot of those articles do time, get timed. They are worded. I mean, if you look at the content of the articles and then look at the content first and then read the headline, the headline is tilted. You could tilt that headline one way or the other, depending on if you're looking to tilt sentiment. And most of those places are owned by a single conglomeration. So, and it's the same in the normal financial industry. It's the same in the normal media. And so,
maybe we should start tilting our headlines just to be complete opposite of whatever the current sentiment is.
So how can we tilt the title of this episode so that we can trigger a sentiment bot? 6 trading tips you never knew existed that'll make you money. Give us a tilt, Joe. Hit us with a tilt.
I think Corey nailed it.
Yeah. What do we say?
You're the one that reads headlines every day. Like, you give us the tilt.
It's okay. I'll give you one.
A jingly tilt.
Here's a tilt. Bitcoin podcast predicts the price of 250,000 by May 2019 using these 6 investing tips, these 3 different times of the year. There you go. That's
a long headline.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to get
those are draft. Those are good draft. We'll rework it.
We're trying to get to the bots, Corey. The bots need.
Oh, that's right. You need data for the bots.
Yeah, we're trying to ping sentiment.
Cliff High needs to be able to pull it out.
Yeah, we're trying to sing sentiment bots here. Okay. Well, we need to wrap.
Excellent.
Awesome, Wayne. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad you called in. It's been a while since we've gotten to have a good quality talk with you.
I'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Tell your friends and family about this, and then tell them they
for
get
buying
a
the
coupon
book.
of Bush's Chicken.
Yeah, thanks for the book purchase, man. I hope you like it. Hope you feel like you got your money's worth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, a quick question for research purposes. So someone mentioned that they would like the quality of the book is not super awesome because we wanted to keep the price down, right? So how would you feel about a more expensive version of something similar that was larger with really high quality like pages and weight and so on and so forth for like a nice coffee table book?
Talking about cop.
Yeah.
I personally, and I think I'm self-aware enough to know that I'm in the minority. I go for those. Like I'm a huge Yes fan. That's why the name is Yes to Crypto. So not only am I in for adoption, but I'm a huge Yes fan. You look at my profile picture in the Slack, it's me with Yes, the progressive rock band Yes. So I have Yes coffee table book that cost $200, and that coffee table book is a collector's item that is just amazing. It's huge. Now, nobody but a Yes fan would get that. Now, a Bitcoin commemorative book, I know you're talking about not one of those types of things, but you're talking about maybe like twice the price, right? Something
$60.
range.
Yeah, $60.
So probably three times the price, right?
Yeah.
4 times. Okay. So I still would definitely go for that because I think there's not anything else in that niche. As soon as something else is in the niche, then you're a Me Too, right? You're a follow-on. But if you're the first in that niche, you're going to get the people in that book to make sure they have a copy. And the people that follow those people in the book, they're going to want a copy, right? Because they're going to say, oh yeah, I'm going to get your book, right? So they're going to be the groupies. They're going to want the books, and they're going to say, "Oh, well, yeah, I've got the Bitcoin podcast book, right?" So I think you're going to have that extra. It just depends on if it costs you anything to publish it. That's the issue, I would think.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that. I think there's a lot of cool things we can do with the content we've like amassed over the years.
Definitely.
And we have a lot of cool ideas with it. They're like putting hard things in people's hands, which is a weird thing to say out of my mouth now that I just heard it. I'll try not to do that again.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I think the only weird thing is that it's digital currency, right? So it should be a digital book. That's the weird part of it.
I think we're going through a Kindle aspect of it. Like,
Yeah, it'll be up on Amazon soon.
Amazon's slow, which you think they wouldn't be since they're like a third of the internet, but things that they do are slow for the
It's got some thickness to it, you can see.
Oh, you can see the spine, and it's on your bookshelf if you want. I mean, it's not small.
Cool. Well, yeah. So I guess we can wrap up there for you guys listening. Please go buy our book, man. We've done a good job of highlighting the variance in how people connect with Bitcoin and Ethereum and blockchain technology, and we've taken their quotes and we've transcribed them and put a picture of their face so you can go look them up if you want to. It's called "Can You Describe Bitcoin, Ethereum, or Blockchain in 10 words or less?"
There's a good portion of people in here who don't have the same role anymore. Like, I just noticed that Mao Hu, the chief operating officer of Quora, he's not there anymore. Chris David's not there anymore. Kelsey Gosseran works for IBM now. So this really is like a snapshot in time of what, I put a date on each book. So, that was their mindset in 2016, Give
us one from newer times and one from older times, and then we'll wrap with that.
Well, I was like Roger Veres because we asked him to describe Bitcoin Core, and he said it's the best form of money the world has ever seen. And obviously he's changed, his opinion since then.
He's changed a little bit since then.
A little bit, And then let me get a recent one in here. All right, here's a high-level one. So here's Nicholas Firo with Mimir Blockchain Solutions. We asked him to describe blockchain, and he said it is a global computer clock, a synchronous ledger immutable state. So as you can see, there's many different ways.
We run the gamut.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. We'll leave you guys with that. TheBitcoinPodcast.com is where you can find our site. There's a section on the site now where you can hit record. It actually literally says hit record, and you can record either maybe some sort of testimonial and you leave us. You can ask us a question, or you can give us a talking point if you want. If you're not in the Slack and you don't want to join the Slack, I don't know why you wouldn't, but you can go there and you can record your voice and you can upload it to us. And there's a 95% chance we're going to play it on the show. So know that. But just another way to reach out to us. So that's it. You guys want to add anything?
Nope.
That was a long delay.
Wayne,
Okay.
you want to add something before we go?
No, go. You guys do such a great job, and that's it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Just the Headers is coming out soon. All right. Well, yeah. Anyways, play the outro.